there are stars born to shine. Brilliantly, blindingly, so much so that even the sky grows envious. But sometimes they burn too fast, too fiercely, until their own light consumes them from within. And when that flame finally burns out, what's left behind isn't glory, but shattered pieces, darkness, and a breathless silence after the applause fades. Winona Ryder, the muse of the 90s, an unforgettable face in countless cinematic classics, and a defining icon of an entire generation. But that light once faded. She, once standing at the peak, fell into the depths of scandal, depression, and oblivion. And yet, this is not a tragedy. This is the story of a survivor, of someone who dared to return, a symbol of rebirth. Dacha Myangro-wan, a childhood marked by early talent. Born in 1971, Winona Ryder grew up in a home filled with love and a deep passion for the arts, a place where every corner seemed to glow with cultural stories and the innocent laughter of childhood. In that environment, she quickly nurtured a passion for the arts from a young age, as if destiny had come knocking early. At just 15 years old, Winona made her film debut in Lucas, a role that immediately caught the attention of the film industry. Though her screen time was brief, her eyes, expressions, and effortless presence spoke volumes, revealing the raw talent of a future cinematic genius. Winona didn't stop there. She quickly made her mark through a series of iconic films throughout the 1980s. Beetlejuice arrived like a fresh breeze, gentle yet tinged with oddity, as she appeared on screen with a cold, sharp beauty and an air of mystery. At the same time, in Heathers, a dark yet vividly stylized film, she delivered a character full of contradictions. Innocence laced with mischief, drawing audiences in with an irresistible allure. Not stopping at her first role, Winona Ryder quickly cemented her name through a series of classic films in the late 1980s. In Beetlejuice, she was like a strange breeze, gentle yet haunting, with a cold, intelligent beauty tinged with sadness, the kind that makes it impossible to look away. Her character, Lydia, wasn't just quirky. She was quietly profound, a kind of role Hollywood had rarely, if ever, seen at the time. Almost simultaneously, Heathers exploded like a cultural shockwave. In this bold and dark high school film, Winona transformed into a young girl who was both innocent and dangerous, where sweetness collided with scheming, and gentle eyes concealed a quiet, rebellious fire. It was that very contradiction that created an inexplicable allure, the kind of character audiences loved, feared, and were utterly mesmerized by. But perhaps the true pinnacle of Winona Ryder's early career came with Edward Scissorhands, a strange and poetic love story born from the unique imagination of Tim Burton. Under the direction of the eccentric yet brilliant Tim Burton, Winona didn't just shine, she soared. In that film, she wasn't merely the love interest. She was the embodiment of fragile beauty in a distorted world, the pure heart caught between blurred lines of right and wrong, reality and dream. Her gaze was gentle yet distant, and her radiant smile carried both warmth and a trace of sorrow. It was that subtlety that made audiences not just fall in love with her, but truly feel her. Winona Ryder became a symbol of quiet strength and haunting beauty, a kind of grace that didn't need to be loud to be unforgettable. It was a role that required few words, because even in silence, she could move people to tears. But perhaps the true pinnacle of Winona Ryder's early career was Edward Scissorhands, a strange and haunting love story crafted from the eccentric imagination of Tim Burton. During those radiant years, Winona Ryder was more than just a young actress. She was an icon of a generation of artists, burning with passion, a living testament to the truth that talent doesn't wait for age. It only needs the chance to bloom. Every role, every glance, every gesture she delivered left a mark, never flashy, never forced, yet utterly captivating. Winona didn't just act. She seemed to live within each character, breathing life into every frame. Her style followed no set rules, rebellious yet gentle, timeless with a touch of modern edge. It was this graceful contradiction that made her truly unique, unforgettable, and unlike anyone else. Number 2, the darling of the 90s. As she entered the 1990s, Winona Ryder was no longer a rising star. She had become a true icon. With her delicate beauty, sharp intellect, and striking presence, Winona was the perfect blend of modern edge and classic grace, a balance of subtle elegance and quiet rebellion, a screen sweetheart who didn't just shine on camera. She left a lasting imprint on the hearts of audiences. In Hollywood at the time, everyone knew Winona Ryder. She was a face that could light up every frame, and a soul that stirred a mysterious emotional depth. Every time she appeared, it felt as if the whole world turned to look. She captivated audiences with unforgettable performances, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts of the public. In Little Women, Winona transformed into Jo March, strong-willed, free-spirited, and deeply human. She breathed life into the character so brilliantly that audiences couldn't take their eyes off her. This role not only brought her closer to an Oscar, but firmly cemented the fact that Winona wasn't just a shining star. She was a true artist, driven by extraordinary talent and a deep passion for her craft. With reality bites, Winona became the resounding voice of a generation, young people grappling with the clash between innocent ideals and a harsh, uncertain reality. And in Girl Interrupted, even in a supporting role alongside Angelina Jolie, Winona remained the soul of the film. She portrayed a fragile contrast, caught between reason and madness, between the desperate need for control and moments of surrender to the abyss of despair. Every glance, every gesture she made carried an unspoken world of emotion, impossible to look away from. Hollywood didn't just adore Winona, they admired and celebrated her as a living icon. She became a fashion symbol as well, embodying the grunge girl aesthetic, rebellious yet refined. Every step Winona took was a fashion statement, the perfect fusion of grit and allure. Magazines raced to feature her on their covers, while young people everywhere tried to emulate her. From her iconic hairstyles to those melancholic yet defiant eyes, the words "Winona Forever" inked on his skin were more than just a vow. They became a symbol of a golden era where artistic love and burning passion lit up every corner of Hollywood. Their relationship wasn't just love, it was the perfect fusion of two artistic souls, a fierce, unfiltered belief in true love, wild, intense, and untainted by calculation. But like all stars that burn too brightly too soon, that dazzling light eventually becomes so fierce it scorches the very ones who carry it. Shocking scandal. Murder 3, the fall no one saw coming. No one could have imagined that a shining star like Winona Ryder would be swept into a whirlwind of scandal in 2001. She, once the radiant symbol of Hollywood, was suddenly arrested for shoplifting, a shocking event that stunned not only the media, but the entire public. No one could believe that such a major star, someone loved and admired throughout the 90s, had fallen into such a serious situation. Winona, once the epitome of charm and talent, had now become the target of criticism and doubt. It's hard to imagine that a star as brilliant as her could be pulled into the darkness of temptations, ones even she never saw coming. Hollywood, the very place where she was once idolized, had now turned its back on her, not just because of her misstep, but because of the deep disappointment felt by those who once adored her. Amid the endless parties, the dazzling nightlife, and the indescribable pressure of fame, Winona gradually began to lose herself. Someone who was once the embodiment of purity and allure had now become a symbol of confusion and inner turmoil. The stage lights were no longer the source of light in her life, but merely blinding beams shining into the darkness of invisible temptations. The image of the screen sweetheart, once idolized by Hollywood, seemed to have completely vanished, giving way to a different Winona Ryder, one who could no longer see herself amid the whirlwinds of risk and despair. Her once confident strides had turned into faltering steps, as fierce waves battered and swept away parts of her, leaving behind someone unrecognizable from the woman who once captivated the world. When the incident occurred, it wasn't just the media that turned their backs. Even the audience, those who had once admired her talent and beauty, began to find it hard to forgive. Her name, once celebrated and sought after, had now become the target of harsh criticism. The phrase "Winona forever," once tied to a passionate and tender love, was no longer a vow or a symbol of eternal affection. It had become a mockery, a bitter irony. Those who once chanted her name now looked on with disappointment and resentment rather than understanding. The audience no longer viewed her with warmth, but with contempt, cold stares, and harsh judgment, as if she had betrayed them, shattered a beautiful image they once cherished. The name Winona Ryder had now become a burden, a dark shadow trailing her every step. Hollywood, long accustomed to glamour and perfection, rarely offers forgiveness to those who fall from grace. For stars who once shone brightly, a single misstep is enough for the darkness to consume them. And Winona was no exception. It all became a heartbreaking testament to the cruelty of this world. And in that fleeting moment, a star, despite her exceptional talent, illustrious career, and dazzling success, suddenly became a forgotten name, buried beneath relentless criticism. The fall was unexpected, unimaginable, yet it became one of the most painful and tragic endings a star could ever face. Everything she had built, everything she had conquered, now felt as if it had been swept away by a storm, leaving only ruins within her. The stage lights under which she once shone now seemed cold and indifferent. She was no longer a symbol, but the embodiment of failure, of someone who could not overcome herself. And that was the moment she had to confront a loneliness that pierced to the core. When every door had closed and all that remained around her was silence. She, once beloved, now stood alone in the dark. It wasn't just a fall from grace in the eyes of the media and the public. Winona Ryder also had to face a quieter, more insidious enemy: depression and the crushing mental pressure that lingered for years. Those were the days when everything around her seemed to collapse, while inside there was only a silent, wordless void. No more applause, no more stage lights, only inner turmoil, sleepless nights, and a numb, overwhelming sense of isolation. She once shared that there were moments when she felt as if she were drifting in a weightless void, unable to cry, unable to speak, and as though she no longer existed in the real world. Caught between the fading glimmer of past glory and the harshness of reality, she struggled to find herself again when every trace of faith seemed to have vanished. It was a lonely, quiet, yet deeply courageous journey, for not everyone has the strength to face the darkness within their own soul. Number 4. A powerful rebirth through stranger things. When the stage lights seemed to have dimmed for good, and the name Winona Ryder appeared to have faded into obscurity in an increasingly unforgiving Hollywood, she made an unexpected comeback, not through a cinematic blockbuster or a lead role in a prestigious art film, but through what seemed like a modest part, a single mother in a sci-fi television series called Stranger Things. Joyce Byers, a small frail woman living in a gloomy town haunted by the supernatural, became a mirror reflecting Winona's real-life journey. A mother fighting with every ounce of her heart for her missing son. A woman who appeared fragile on the outside, yet was unbreakable within. Once an artist cast aside by Hollywood, drowned in prejudice, scandal, sorrow, and depression, she now rose with courage, reclaiming her rightful place step by step. No longer the screen sweetheart of the 90s, Winona Ryder became living proof of one simple truth. Some people don't just return, they are reborn. And in that rebirth, she didn't need to be who she once was. She was strong enough to be herself, a matured version marked by scars, yet still captivating and worthy of admiration. When Stranger Things officially premiered, No one could have predicted that this 1980s set sci-fi series would become a global phenomenon, and even less that Winona Ryder would be the heart of that sensation. From the very first episodes, audiences were jolted awake by the return of a familiar face, once the icon of an entire generation, now making a comeback not to relive the past, but to claim her place in the present. Gone was the shy gaze of Little Women, gone the strange and dreamy muse from Beetlejuice or Edward Scissorhands. On screen, Winona appeared with sunken eyes, a voice tight with anxiety, hands trembling as she clutched each light bulb in desperation. And yet, it was that very fragility that gave her performance its haunting strength. People no longer saw a fallen star. They saw a true artist, a woman who had once been swallowed by the brutal whirlpool of fame, now standing tall again, raw with emotion and steeled with resilience. Winona Ryder as Joyce Byers didn't just earn sympathy, she left the world speechless with emotion. Because behind the character was a real story of someone who had clawed her way back from the depths of crisis, from pain and from being forgotten. Once again, Winona Ryder reminded the world that some flames never truly go out. They simply wait for the right moment to blaze back, brighter than ever. No one could have predicted that this would be the door that led her back into the light. After nearly 2 decades of being cast aside by Hollywood, she returned, quietly without fanfare, yet left the world breathless with emotion. In the role of Joyce Byers, a desperate single mother searching for her son, Winona didn't just act the character, she lived it, breathed it, and conveyed every flicker of fear, every gesture, every haunted glance, with a power that gripped the viewer's heart. Once again, Winona Ryder reminded the world that some flames never truly go out. They simply wait for the right moment to blaze back, brighter than ever. No one could have predicted that this would be the door that led her back into the light. After nearly 2 decades of being cast aside by Hollywood, she returned, quietly without fanfare, yet left the world breathless with emotion. In the role of Joyce Byers, a desperate single mother searching for her son, Winona didn't just act the character, she lived it, breathed it, and conveyed every flicker of fear, every gesture, every haunted glance, with a power that gripped the viewer's heart. Once again, Winona Ryder stepped onto the stage of life, without embellishment, without chasing glamour. Because now it is her raw authenticity, the visible scars etched deep in her soul, that make her utterly captivating. Malkur 1 returning in the radiance of a victor. There was no need for loud scandals to draw attention, no reliance on PR stunts or any kind of superficial spotlight. Winona Ryder's return wasn't loud, but it resonated like a melody filled with sincerity. She didn't shout to be heard. She whispered through her eyes, through emotion, through the haunting presence she brought to the screen. And it was that very silence that left the world speechless. Every frame in which she appeared in Stranger Things seemed to carry the weight of the long journey she had walked, filled with wounds, doubts, and ultimately, resilience. Her eyes weren't just those of a character. They were the eyes of someone who had seen both the spotlight and the abyss. And from that, she breathed life into every line, every gesture, making the audience not just watch, but feel. Feel the pain, the hope, and the fierce determination her character embodied. Winona Ryder didn't need to shout, "I'm back." Her presence, simple, honest, and profound, was a louder declaration than words could ever be. She proved that those who fall, if they have the courage to rise and refuse to let the past define the future, can return, not just stronger, but more beautiful, steady, and radiant than ever before. From a forgotten icon, she became one of Hollywood's most remarkable comeback stories, a true symbol of rebirth. She emerged as a new cultural icon, bridging generations and reviving a nostalgic elegance in an ever-changing modern world. Young people, who once only recognized her from a vintage poster hanging in a retro cafe, now speak her name with deep respect. They see in her not just the brave mother Joyce Byers, but a woman who has lived, stumbled, risen again, and never given up. She now graces the covers of major magazines, a muse for fashion houses with a classic soul, timeless yet never outdated. From her grunge style of the past to her understated, down-to-earth presence today, Winona seems to remind us that authenticity never goes out of style, and true beauty never needs to chase trends. A wave of TikTok videos, fan art, memes, and quotes about her now spreads across social media, a quiet yet powerful current of nostalgia. She didn't just make a comeback, she made people rediscover an entire era in which she was once the soul. The Winona Ryder of today doesn't need noise. She is quiet yet powerful, like a haunting score that lingers long after the scene fades. She is no longer the queen of youth, but the keeper of flame for those whose hearts have once doubted themselves. And in a Hollywood where stars often burn bright, only for a fleeting moment, Winona Ryder has done what few ever manage. She survived. She returned. And she inspires. Not through physical strength, but through emotional resilience. Not with gimmicks, but with the depth of an artist's soul that refuses to break. She is a symbol of rebirth, of courage, and of the kind of beauty that emerges after the storm. A quiet flame, burning slow and deep, until one day it lights up the darkness. And if anyone ever asks, is there still hope for those who have fallen? Just look at Winona Ryder, and you'll understand that sometimes it is through the cracks that the light gets in. It was a winding, thorny road, where dazzling light always came with its own shadows. There were once heights that made the world stand in awe, and falls so painful they took your breath away. But above all, it is the story of a soul that refused to surrender to fate. A woman who chose to rise, no matter how many times life knocked her down. Winona Ryder once lost her way, but she was never truly forgotten. She came back, not to chase the spotlight, but to write a new chapter. A chapter of rebirth, of courage, and of a heart that never stopped beating for art. She is living proof of something we all need to remember. You can fall, you can lose your way, but you can always return if you still believe in yourself. And maybe, in a world that is loud and quick to forget, it is people like Winona Ryder who are the quietest and most enduring sources of light. Thank you for joining us on this inspiring journey through the life of Winona Ryder. If her story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss more powerful and emotional stories like this. And share this video with someone who might find strength in their own struggles. Because sometimes, a story is all it takes to spark hope.